The E.A.F.P podcast.
As electrifying as a hairdryer thrown into a hot tub, my friend.
On the JCA Sports Podcast on Spotify and Anchor app. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the E.A.F.P podcast here, brought to you by Star 6 Media and also under the John Konavi Facebook page too as well. As always, guys, make sure you follow not just only my podcast, but also all the other podcasts on the Star 6 Media Facebook page. That includes Big League Chicago, Sports Strip Live, the JCA Sports Podcast, Only Football, and Three Up and Three Down. That should be live tonight if you guys are interested in watching baseball and the World Series too as well. I got a lot to talk to you guys about today in the podcast for tonight. Rounding off the World Cup, which is, if you could see my ugly handwriting right here, we got 17 days away for the World Cup to start. So it should be an exciting one and fun to watch. It starts literally on the 20th. It's on a Sunday. Get you guys through that. Also, Champions League, the teams have already advanced to the knockout stages. Also, the Europa League has ended today too as well. All the games are going to finish up this weekend. Most leagues are finishing up this weekend. Some are finishing up next weekend or the weekend before the World Cup, or actually next weekend. Before the World Cup starts on the 20th. There's going to be a bunch of friendlies coming up in the next couple weeks to get the preparation for the World Cup. I'm going to get you all into that and plus many more. Reminder of you guys, if you guys I have a podcast almost every single day to talk about the World Cup and the matchups that they have going on. Remember, the games are going to start. The game starts, the first one and the only one on Sunday on the 20th is Qatar versus Ecuador. That's the only one that's going to be playing on Sunday. So right after that, we're going to talk about that, leading up to prior games. And again, up until the World Cup finishes, you're going to see me a lot more often here on the Star 6 Media Facebook page, the John Konavi Facebook page, and listening to the E.A.F.P podcast. But let's get down to talk about the World Cup. Let's switch it up. Let's talk about the teams that came out of the group today, or yesterday, should I say, from the Champions League. Champions League is now officially over. We already know the teams are going to advance to the round of 16. Some there are surprisingly supposed to be there. Some teams are surprised they're not there. Different positions. This playoff matchup for the round of 16 is going to be very interesting, simply because there are some teams that you thought they were going to be there on the top aren't on the top, and you know how E.F.P operates. They want all the good matchups. That's why they did the way they did their setup for these playoff rounds, at least for the first round of 16. Reminder: nobody plays the same team in their own group. Nobody plays the same team if they're in the same country or the same league. Everybody's just at random. But let's start off with Group A. In Group A, we have Napoli and Liverpool in that order. So whatever team shows up first, that's who's first place, and obviously follows up in second. Napoli, probably like the hottest team playing in Europe right now, undefeated in this league, in this tournament. I want to say they're also undefeated in Italy, but I know they're top in Italy right now. Very, very good. A very good team. Very underrated team, especially for what they lost. The players wise, I'm saying for what they lost. It was a surprising team that actually ends up being in first place too as well. It's more surprising than the team that came in second, simply because of the way that they had played, or the way, coming into this, just coming in this year, Liverpool has been subpar in almost every single matchup, every single game so far this year. It's been non-Liverpool-esque, if that makes any sense. But also at the same time, is it the Jurgen Klopp 7-year curse, right? Everybody likes to talk about that. That's the one thing that they all wanted to see or talk about, is the 7-year curse of Jurgen Klopp. Is it true? Looks like it's true, but I mean, they still made it out of the Champions League group stage. They struggled in that group, but they also, they still came up on top. They got points where they needed to get. They played against Napoli, knowing that these two are already going to advance. It's just mainly who's going to be in position. But the team had already kind of like stay flat, knew they were going to go anywhere. Both teams Surprise! Both teams made it into the round of 16. This group right here is very surprising in Group B, and the only reason why it is surprising is the fact of the matter is this group wasn't supposed to end up like this. At least the two teams that had advanced, right? These two teams that had advanced between FC Porto and Club Bruges, it was in the same group as Bayern Leverkusen. Excuse me, Bayern Leverkusen and Atletico Madrid. Both of these teams, Porto and Bruges, just literally just took over this group. The two teams that you thought they were going to advance only got 5 points out of it, and Leverkusen and Madrid, Atletico Madrid, to be exact. Um, it's surprising the fact that the way that both of these teams coming in now, Leverkusen has a nice steady attack going up front. That you did not see that at all in this group. You see their defensive liabilities that were shown, and Atletico Madrid just weren't. How should I say this? They just weren't good enough at all in this tournament, in this competition at all, and they haven't been good enough at all, even in La Liga too as well. This Atletico Madrid team has taken 2, 3, 4, 5 steps back, and it's just one of those situations to where it's like, okay, when is it time to let go of Cholo Simeone? You know what? And you hate to have those conversations simply because Cholo means so much to this team. Not only reaching a Champions League final, this was years back already. You're talking about 7, 6 years, going back. But he won a Europa League title with them too. He's won a couple La Liga titles. The most recent 2 years ago, he's won almost anything that when Atletico Madrid weren't really that relevant, he made them relevant once again. And now it's one of those situations to where it's like, is it time for a new message? Because the team that they have, let's be honest, the team that Atletico Madrid has really shouldn't be in the Europa League, right? The team that he has really shouldn't be struggling in La Liga right now. They are 7 points behind both Real Madrid and Barcelona, minus 6 points, I guess, something like that. But it's a very, very disturbing statistic, especially for a team that has that much quality. Trust me, Atletico Madrid has quality front and back. It's just something didn't hit right. Something wasn't good enough um for 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 Atletico Madrid. Whatever the case may be, whatever the case was, it wasn't just good enough here. And now they're in the Europa League. We're gonna go down to Group C. Um, I guess most people guessed this one right. Obviously, everybody chose Bayern going on number one. It was just between Barcelona and Inter Milan, and it was Inter that came out on top. Barcelona had a few chances to, make it to the top, to make it to the second place and get into this. Bayern perfect 6 for 6 plus 16 goals, got all the 18 points that you needed to get to at least qualify for the first place. But it was always a battle between Inter and Barcelona, just in just these games against Italy. Obviously, they lost against Bayern, but the games against Inter Milan and the one game, it just that was it. Um, that was pretty much it. They didn't capitalize on a win against them, or they didn't even get points against Inter Milan. Their goal differential was at 0. They literally had the same amount of goals as they scored on. Um, and that was just the difference. They just didn't show up in the games that they needed to show up. We knew that was going to be a struggle. Well, Barca knew it was going to be a struggle against Bayern. Everybody knew that the Victoria Pilsen game was going to be 6 points guaranteed for all three teams. It was just, what are you going to do against Inter? And the loss that they got in Italy was enough for Barca not to advance out of this group, and they are also in the Europa League. Talking about two giants, two European giants that normally were supposed to compete for Champions League is now in the Europa League too as well. As we go down to Group D, no shocker here. Tottenham versus Frankfurt. I mean, Tottenham and Frankfurt both advancing into the round of 16. But it was a tight one. It went down to the very last game of the tournament too for the Champions League, to at least get somebody into this round of 16 out of this group, because everybody could have made it. Marseille, Sporting, as well. They were in it in the very last game of the season. Tough news for Tottenham. They still haven't seen, or at least I still haven't seen any news on Heung-min Son. He went down with an injury, and not only for Tottenham's sake, but too as well, but also coming up for Korea in the World Cup. It's very sad to see. I haven't seen any updates on him. I don't know if you guys have. You always could put it on the comment section or even join me too as well. I put the link on here too as well if you guys want to join. My podcast link is always on. Leave a comment. I'll read it on. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about more about soccer, more about football, more about the World Cup. And I also got a little something off my chest to get out of this World Cup because it's not looking good. It's not looking good at all. We're gonna get at bottom of the groups too as well to finalize. As we move down to Group E, again, kind of not a big surprise here too as well. Chelsea and AC Milan coming out of 1 and 2 out of that group. Very simple group. Obviously, the two they had Salzburg and Dinamo Zagreb, the two in that group, but it was always going to be these two. These two come out as 1 and 2. So no change there. Also, no change in the following group as well in Group F between Real Madrid and and RB Leipzig. The two teams that you thought that were going to advance, they did. Easy group. This was going to be easy group. These two were going to share the points. They did in Real Madrid. I mean, they did one game, but Real Madrid did their thing. So did Leipzig. So nothing big there. In this Group G, between with Man City and Borussia Dortmund advancing, it was going to be a little complicated. Ended up not being as complicated as it was, as this group was finalized last week. As Man City and Dortmund go advance as 1 and 2 into this group. Sevilla, very disappointing outing for Sevilla once again in the Champions League. It's a team that you thought that was going to show more fight, more consistency in this tournament, and they didn't. They didn't end up being that team at all. Especially on the trips to Copenhagen when they went to Norway, they didn't look sharp. They looked second, third best team, definitely against Germany in both games against Man City. So it just didn't look great. They didn't look right from the start. They didn't look good. They're in the Europa League once again. This Europa League is stacked, especially when you got the three teams, the teams that are coming in third place from the Champions League, heading into the Europa League and the playoff qualification. And a little shocker, at least to me, not that much, but a bit of a shocker in the final Group H, that had PSG, Juventus, Benfica, and Maccabi Haifa. Maccabi Haifa. Sure, we'll go with that one. Benfica and PSG both share the points, had the same goal differentials. It just Benfica just had, I think, the better scoreline in one of the games. I think that's the only reason why they got first place. I forgot what the reason was. But Benfica ends up being first. PSG ends up being second. And that's huge. That's a big, huge momentum or big storyline coming out of it simply because of the position that they got. Now, remember, mind you, like I said earlier in the podcast, that the way they sorted out these groups is that you can't play the same team in your league. PSG is the only French team left. And you can't play the same team in your group. So Benfica escapes another one. But you do play against the other first place teams, right? Which leads you to believe, you can either get a Man City PSG, a Real Madrid PSG, a Chelsea PSG, Tottenham PSG, Bayern PSG, Porto PSG, or Napoli PSG. Again, it just makes it interesting because also Liverpool in being there in that second one, again, you don't face Napoli, and Chelsea escapes them, Tottenham escapes them, and City escapes them too as well. All four teams from England advance to the next round, but let there be light. But now Bayern, Real Madrid, Benfica. You also got, that's pretty much it. Bayern, Benfica, Porto are probably the only three teams that will probably face Liverpool in this upcoming competition. And it's going to be interesting how they place it because, again, you don't, by the rules that they set this up, it's going to be leaving interesting matchups for sure, especially PSG being in second place. Now, another interesting note that's coming out of this group is Juventus only getting 3 points, only winning against Maccabi Haifa, and that's the only 3 points they got. Losing, and even I think they even lost one against them too as well. Poor performance overall in the group. Poor performance that they're playing in Italy. This team is just in disarray. They're also going to be in the Europa League too as well. You're talking about Juventus, Barcelona, Sevilla, Atletico Madrid, all of them going into the and Ajax. I forgot about Ajax too. Ajax in the same group with Liverpool and Napoli. Ajax also going to the Europa League, and it got interesting and it got more tougher for that league because normally you don't get those type of teams, right? Every once in a blue moon, you'll get a team like that going into Europa League to qualify or to play for that tournament. But when you get what 4, 5 Leverkusen, if you want to add them in there, I mean, look at the teams that are going to go into Europa League: Ajax, Leverkusen, Barcelona, Sporting, um, Salzburg. You got Shakhtar Donetsk, you got Sevilla, and you got Juventus. It's going to be a very tough competition. The difference is you're playing on Thursday, so now your schedule is going to be fluctuated towards the tail end after the World Cup, after the New Year in February, where your tournament is going to be fluctuated just a little bit. In playing Thursday instead of Tuesday, Wednesday, you're playing Thursday and Sunday. That's a big momentum swing and a big difference. And those teams that are going there, I'm telling you, that's going to be a very tough outing for whatever team comes out of it. Because remember, the first place team in the groups in the Europa League automatically qualify for the round of 16. It's the second place team that also qualifies, but now you're going to have that matchup like PSV, who was in Arsenal's group, and I'm only going that because I'm an Arsenal fan. But PSV can go up against either Juventus or Barcelona, a um, a Sevilla, a Ajax team. Like it's that second place team that has to play that or that's going to play against the third place team coming out of the Champions League group. And now that's how you get around. It's amazing how a big like this is what kind of the Europa League was kind of meant for, just in case if they don't do well in the Champions League, they at least have another option or another competition to play in Europe. It's going to be on Thursdays. But the fact of the matter is, you're kind of going to get a mini dosage of like a mini Champions League, I guess you can say, because there's also some. I'm not saying there's good teams there. I'm not saying there's amazing teams there in the Champions League. I mean, I'm sorry, not in the Champions League, but in the Europa League. But the fact of the matter is, it's just it's going to be an interesting competition because now you're going to see um as I'm trying to look it up here. Hold on, I do apologize for the silence. But let me tell you the teams that actually, I mean, definitely qualified for first place that automatically get their bid, right? Like I said, Arsenal got on in Group A, Fenerbahce out for Group B, Betis in Group C. You have Union Goldstein in Group D, Real Sociedad is going to be coming out in Group E. Group F, you have Feyenoord, you have Freiburg, and you have I can't even. I'm not even going to tell the team that's in Group H the name of it. But again, the second place team, and there are good teams on there too as well. So you're going to get like a Monaco, a Nantes. You're going to get our Manchester United, who came out second in that group B. You had the team that's fighting in the top in Union Berlin, also in that AC Roma with Jose Mourinho. You got Rennes from France, and you got PSV Andover, and now you're going to play against the teams like Barcelona, Juventus, Atletico Madrid, Sevilla. Like this just got really interesting for Thursday nights, and this is what the Europa League kind of wanted to swing and hit a home run with teams that don't that still have top name quality coming to the Champions League, and just like we're gonna have some decent matchups Monday, Tuesday. I mean, I'm sorry, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, midweek in all the European competitions, or at least in the Champions and the Europa League competition. So this got very interesting with those teams with that caliber, with that name dropping into the Europa League. I want to know what you guys think about that. Here, as you're listening to and watching the EAFP podcast here on Facebook under the Star Six Mia Facebook page. Also, I have it under the John Konavi Facebook page. I'm also live on YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. The comments and the link is on here if you guys want to join me and have a conversation about soccer. Right now, we're transitioning over to the World Cup that's actually 17 days away. If you could see it right here, I know I got to get a new marker for that. My handwriting has to be better. I think my daughter writes better than I do, but let's get right into it. The World Cup. Let me get there. There it is. Here we go. Group D. Group D just got a little bit interesting. Now I know I have it where it says IC Playoff 1. That means the international playoff competition to get into the World Cup. That's actually Australia. In this group, you have France, Australia, Denmark, and Tunisia. The only reason why it's a little bit interesting is not because you have the defending World Cup champions in France in there, but France did lose a pivotal player, not going into the World Cup, and Paul Pogba. He went down with, I think it was a calf injury or a hamstring injury, but at the end of the day, it was a muscular injury. He's going to miss the World Cup. He's not going to be there for France. It's a big, huge blow for France. A lot of people may say otherwise, because this team is so stacked that you could talk about, you can make a squad of 22 players from their bench and all the other reserves, and you still have a decent squad competing in a World Cup. And that's how deep France are. Now, the one thing against France that I'm gonna say this right now, if you're a big believer in what's the word I'm trying to look for? If you're a big believer in like what like if you're skeptical, not skeptical, skeptical is not the right word. What's the right word I'm looking for right now? But if you're into like that whole wow, why can I not think of this damn word? Anywho, if you guys can help me out here, but the only reason why I bring this up is because every winner from the World Cup, starting from the 1998 World Cup, which by the way France won, there's been a curse for those teams that have won the World Cup that never got out of their group. Yes, the winner of the previous World Cup hasn't gone out of their group ever since 1990. I want to say Brazil is probably the only one that actually got out of the round of 16, but got out of the group stage and won and lost in the round of 16 in 2006. But let me read you this. France 98 in 2002 they got eliminated in the group stage. In 2002 Brazil they won. In Korea they ended up losing in the round of 16. In 2000 and so I said 2002 Brazil, 2006 Italy won the World Cup. In 2006 and 2010 they didn't even qualify for the. I mean, they got eliminated in the World Cup, or even make it in the World Cup, right? In 2010 Spain won the World Cup. In 2014 didn't even. I think they only registered a point in 2014 in Brazil, and they just got humiliated. I mean, I'm talking about the humiliation that Spain went through in 2014 after not only winning, because at that time Spain was the golden era. Spain won the 18 Euros, they won the 2010 World Cup, they won the 2012 Euros, and for them to have that type of performance in the World Cup, I know I'm going off track here, but the only reason why I'm going this, and I'm still going to tell you this, because in 2014 Germany won in Brazil, and they didn't even got out of the group stage in 2018 in the same group where they lost to Mexico. They came back and won against Sweden, and they lost to South Korea, in the last game of the season, which made Mexico advance, by the way. But that's neither here nor there. So the beauty of winning the World Cup also comes with its own curse, and I think that's the word I was trying to look for earlier. Has its own curse, superstitious. Thank you, Rick. Um, it's is it this group has it set up for France to come out of this group in first, right? The only tough test that they have is probably Denmark, and Denmark being ranked probably in the top 15 for sure. I think they even creeped into the top 10. I'll probably give you guys the rankings next week. But France, Australia, Denmark, and Tunisia. This should be no problem for France. No problem at all to get out of the group. But if, like Rick says, if you're big into superstitions, the team that won the World Cup, only Brazil's the only one that got out of the World Cup in 2006 out of the group, but ended up losing in the round of 16. Which, you know what, I'm not even going to go there because my head is just going somewhere else, and I don't want to say it regardless of the fact, and especially how I feel about Mexico. But if this is true, I'm just saying, if France comes out first in this group and they face against Mexico and they don't get out around the 16, I'm just saying we probably might get it. That regardless of the fact, guys, I'm not going there. But do you really believe that? Like, if France comes, can France get out of this group? Can they break this curse? Can they do it? Because so far, like I said, since '98, it's a trend, guys. It's a trend, and it's a very good trend to keep to as well. But to me personally, I really do believe France does get out of do get out of this group. But I feel like they're going to struggle too, because coming into this World Cup again, France hasn't been playing very well in neither of their friendlies and or this Nations League that they have in Europe. Like France has been kind of, eerie, weird. Like there's a weird vibe going on. I don't know if it's gotten into their head, but France coming into this World Cup hasn't been any good. So hopefully, I want to believe France gets out of this group, but I believe that they might come out even second. I think the game against Denmark, they might trip up and fall. Now again, it's still France Denmark, regardless of the fact those are the two teams that are going to come out of this group. But it's going to be real interesting. I do believe Denmark might come out of first place in this group, and France coming out in second, which is going to make a tough matchup because if they do come out of second, the second place team faces against the first place team in Group C, and we'll probably have a rematch of the 2018 World Cup round of 16 matchup and the revenge game, hopefully maybe between Argentina and France. But that's just me. What do I know, right? Moving on to the next group as we're gonna get here. We're gonna go Group D, Group E, and in another tight, tough, mini tough group here in Group E, where we have Germany, Spain, Japan, and Costa Rica. Overall, very tough group, mini tough, and I like to say mini tough because obviously you have Germany and their dominance, right? And Germany coming into this World Cup, I mean, they've looked very German-esque, if that makes any sense, right? Looking like a very top team coming out, going into this group. Looks like they're going to win out this group too, um, and just and not only steamroll. I don't think they're going to steamroll, but win this group comfortably. And then the other teams have question marks. I mean, Japan, very pacey team, very, they're very difficult to break down. But going forward, it's kind of like although they're pacey, they missed a lot of their opportunities trying to go and goal, trying to get some goals in there. And in a group like this, where you face not only you have Manuel Neuer, you have David De Gea, you also got Keylor Navas as your goal. You really got to take advantage of the opportunities that you have that are presented in front of you. To me, Japan is going to be the bottom feeders of this group. Now, this is where it gets a little bit complicated because it's not the same Spain, like I mentioned before, that won the Euros, the World Cup, and the Euros once again in back-to-back years. This Spain team is completely different. Now, there was a report today, although he might have probably not even been in the World Cup, but Gerard Piqué did announce his retirement today. Saturday is his last game. That's the last game before La Liga goes on a hiatus, 1 month hiatus before the World Cup starts. But this Spain group, you have your mixed bag, right? You probably might have Sergio Ramos and Jordi Alba probably playing for the last time, maybe along David De Gea. You also have players like Koke and Saul who are already entering their back end or their prime years. You have the young players. Ansu Fati's not going to be there, which I'm very disappointed. But they have a lot of young players coming into this and leading this attack as well. Right now, it's just this Spain team led by Luis Enrique. Um, to me, it has a lot of question marks. What kind of team we're going to see? We're going to have a very young Spain team, especially with Pedri, especially with Gavi. No matter how you guys see them or view them, that's a young team that's going to lead this team. That this is their main team for Spain. The question is it going to be enough to face against the Germans? And also let's give credit where credit's due. In Costa Rica, a very experienced Costa Rica team, which might be one of the top 5 teams, the oldest teams coming leading into this group. You're going to get your last World Cup from Keylor Navas, your Joel Campbells, and what Costa Rican team are going to be here, and the experience of being there doing that. Um, is that going to be a tough test? That's the game right there that's going to separate who's going to win this group? Now, to me personally, I think Germany, like I said, is going to run away, going to win all 3 games in my book. This German team looks kind of hard to beat anywhere to go. Out of this tournament, it's probably going to be one of the toughest teams in this tournament. But I'll give the edge to Costa Rica over Spain. I think Spain will probably be good for the next World Cup, where the young players are going to get that experience. They're gonna have the right players at that age. Attacking wise, I still feel like they're very scarce to striker. I don't think their striker position with Alvaro Morata or Llorente, whoever it is that might be as your striker. I don't think those are top quality strikers on top as well. I do believe that Spain will struggle in this World Cup. I mean, they're going to get the 3 points against Japan. They might get a point. They might take a point away from the Costa Rica game. It's just the goal difference, and whoever outscores Japan will get it because I don't think they won't compete with Germany. I think Germany is too much far in advance. With the experienced players that they had, that German squad, they're going to run it over. But Germany and Costa Rica, for me, are going to lead. End up this group winning, going 1-2. Germany number one, Costa Rica number two, Spain. We'll see you here in the United States, Mexico, and Canada in 2026. I almost forgot there. Another group that's pretty interesting, and I'm only saying it's interesting myself because you have the team that lost the World Cup and that came the runners up in Croatia. You have, to me, in my eyes, in my book, in my personal opinion, humble personal opinion, a very overrated Belgium team that has. I mean, the team that they have, Belgium, to me, has always had a starting 11, and that's it, right? Once you go into that bench, you kind of you're digging too deep to find somebody, some players, anybody. Um, into this team to help strengthen up this squad. Uh, I honestly believe, right, and this is probably going to be my only shocker picks in this group, right? But I do believe coming out of this group, Croatia and Canada will probably be the number one and number two team in this group. And the only reason why I say that is because to me, it's another year, another tournament. Belgium played very well in the last World Cup and just got stopped by, I think it was France. They got them in that group. I'm trying to remember if my memory serves me right, but they got into the quarterfinals. That was probably the right aim. But this team, um, I don't know. This team doesn't strike fear. They have big names: Kevin De Bruyne, Romelu Lukaku. Obviously, they got Thibaut Courtois. They have Dries Merton. They got the Hazard brothers. If even Eden is going to be there, they have Yuri Tillemans. They have a squad where these players in the leagues that they play in and what they bring in week in and week out. But when it comes to actually playing this World Cup, by the way, they got one of the ugliest jerseys, away jerseys out there. That I'm just putting that out there. Um, I think to me this team is a little bit overrated. I think this team finally will hit this mental, like this golden era of Belgian football. Which, yes, don't get me wrong, it had that tagline. But when it came to the major tournaments, they never showed up. And I think this is going to be the last tournament that you're going to see this golden age, this golden era, at least World Cup, at least, right? You have another year for Euros in a couple years, but this World Cup, Canada is probably the best representation of the CONCACAF. I think they're there for a reason. They're the number one team in CONCACAF for a reason. I think they're going to show off in this World Cup. You give me Croatia again as the number one spot. Give me Croatia and Canada. That's probably going to be my outside, out of mind, out of reach box, out of the box thought right here. Give me Croatia, give me Canada coming out of the number one, number two spot in this World Cup because I don't think Belgium has enough. I could always be wrong, right? Obviously, I'm always wrong when it comes to these pickums and stuff like that. But I just don't. If Belgium doesn't strike fear, I won't be surprised if they come out number two. I won't be surprised if they're the top team in this group and it's between Croatia and Canada to come out of that group. Regardless of the fact, my personal pick, I got Croatia and Canada coming out of this group. Let's talk about Brazil and their depth and their group here in Group G, which is I think the final group. Now I got one more group. Um, and the fact of the matter is that the Brazil probably has the easiest walk through, maybe up until the quarterfinal, right? Where there's a possibility they might face. I'm not sure if they face Argentina in the quarterfinal or in the semifinal, but they have the easier path right here. This group doesn't strike fear. Cameroon, not that tough. Serbia, okay, they're okay, mediocre at best. They hold their line, but they have nothing going forward. And Switzerland's a little bit of surprise. They do press you very well. They will come at you. They have some good on ball players on that team. But I think the depth of Brazil is just from top to bottom. I mean, I'm talking about you have depth everywhere from goalkeepers between Allison and Ederson, from Militao to Thiago Silva to Gabriel Magañas to who's the left backs? Lodri to you mean Casemiro. You got Gabriel Jesus, Richarlison. You have Neymar. Obviously, Neymar when he plays, I don't know what it is, but obviously when you put on the Brazilian jersey, Neymar just becomes this whole superstar player that everybody wants to have on their team, and you really don't get it other than Brazil. And it's just it's another tournament to where this could be Neymar's last World Cup too. I mean, maybe, probably not, right? I think the World Cup here in the United States, Mexico, Canada would probably be his last one. He's only 32, but no matter what, it's this is just an easy pass for Brazil. I think Brazil will just be fine with this one. Brazil will walk into this group. Um, with that being said, I think it's Brazil and Switzerland that come out number one and number two in this group. Easy path right here. Serbia and Cameroon, thank you for coming to the World Cup. Obviously, that's kind of most of the dreams for most of the teams, anyways, to go to the World Cup and be there. And to me, which is we're gonna end up this group and end up this World Cup talk with Group H, which is to me the group of death because you have Portugal and Cristiano Ronaldo's last run in in the World Cup. You have Ghana, to me, kind of one of the best African teams coming into this World Cup, even though they're kind of ranked the lowest amongst the lowest teams in there. I mean, Senegal is probably up there too, but Ghana the lowest ranked team. But this is the only reason why Uruguay, and you also got Korea. Korea, you don't know where you're going to get if Heung-min Son is even going to come play the World Cup. I don't know if his injury still, how long is it going to be. That's just a very very unfortunate situation. Hopefully, he will be in this World Cup because we would love to see it, and that makes a whole difference of a player like Heung-min Son coming in and making a difference not only to play just in this group alone, because this group as maybe it's the group of death, it also could be the group of life because it is so wide open. Portugal, I mean, whatever you get out of Cristiano Ronaldo, you're gonna get it. You're gonna get his best coming out of this World Cup, and it'll be his last ride ever, right? Portugal, to me, defensively, it's pretty solid. Keeper, it just, I just don't know. Something about Portugal and this team is just they're going to be exposed in a way to where it's just Uruguay will probably find their like this. You can find the pros and the flaws in all four of these teams, and it's just like you can't go wrong. Like if you pick Portugal and Uruguay, you're fine with that. If you pick Ghana, Uruguay, that sounds good too. If you pick Korea and Uruguay, that sounds good too. Korea, Portugal, like any of these four teams can make it. You're right, Rick. It's weird to think that this is going to be Ronaldo's last World Cup, and it's true. It really is. I mean, he's up there. He's what, 36, 37? I mean, I don't think there's another World Cup in him, right? Like this Portugal team has a lot of good players, but they're so flawed. As a squad, they're flawed. Uh, Uruguay, they barely scrapped in coming into this World Cup too as well. Like literally scrapped. Obviously you got Darwin Nunez. You have these type of players that can make it. Valverde up in Real Madrid making a big difference there too as well. Young players coming from Uruguay, which is going to be great and great for their future. Ghana again coming in as the weakest African team ranked in this World Cup, but to me they have a lot of deep like they could play solid. Like they're going to be hard to break down. Especially most of them, they have that strength and the speed to go on top too as well. And Korea Republic, it's whatever you think about it. It's like if there's a difference if Heung-min Son makes it there because that pace and that team breaks down so quickly, and then you're going to be worried about him that the other players that are coming in, they're as quick as Heung-min Son, and they could put it in the back of the net. Trust me, Korea could put it in the back of the net. Whether if it's Son or whether if it's not, they could put it in the back of the net. This group is gonna be so. This group is so wide open. I think this one to me is gonna be like, okay, this is gonna be my meatball pick, right? Simply because it's you can't go wrong with either or. But I honestly do believe it's probably going to be Uruguay and maybe and Ghana. And I struggle saying this because I don't know. Portugal again, another team that doesn't strike fear in me because they're so wide open. They could be, they could play defensively. They could park the bus as much as they can. They could play defensively, but that doesn't give you the experience of Bruno Fernandez going out top. Maybe Bruno Neves in the center defense. I mean, maybe this team would come a little bit more wide open, and obviously you guys walk Cancelo in the bank and everybody. It's just I feel like they can play open, and if we get a Portugal that's open, that plays on the fly and come in and attack, Portugal will probably come into this group and win it hands down easily. Now, you know what? Let me just as I talk about it, I'm trying to change up my mind. So I'm just gonna go with the safest pick in Uruguay and Portugal. Portugal coming out the top of the group, and then Uruguay second. But this group is so tough. It's so tough to pick a clear cut winner simply because like it is as open as it can be. And that is my picks for the group. If we run it back again, I got Ecuador, I got Netherlands and Senegal coming out of this group. I will write it down next week and I'll give you a brief recap on the playoff picture. I have England and the United States in this one too as well. This group is going to be a lot more tougher than what everybody thinks, but England and the United States are going to come out at 1 and 2 out of this one. Uh, my heart says Mexico and Argentina. Argentina on the top of the group, so I'm just going to go with that one. So Mexico, Argentina, 1 and 2. 1 and 2 out of this one. France and Denmark. Just recapping my picks for the group. France and Denmark. I right, pretty much all ones all around. Germany and Costa Rica. This is the one that I'm gonna throw a little bit different. This one also too as well. My picks are gonna be Croatia and Canada as my out of the box picks. Brazil and Switzerland in this one, and to finalize the groups, Portugal and Uruguay. I'll make the bracket next week on who which team is going to advance. I'll pick by pick as we have 17 days left, guys. We have 17 days. We have two more podcasts with regular Eric, and then we have the World Cup podcast coming up every day from the start. Well, maybe not every day. Definitely the groups every day from the group stages on, and then obviously when the playoff starts, we're gonna have a podcast on the days that the playoffs are gonna be in. So those are my picks. You're listening to the E.A.F.P podcast here on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, and Twitch under the JCA Sports Pod, under the JCA John Conavi Facebook page and the Star Six Media Facebook page too as well, along with their YouTube, their Twitch, and Twitter as well. The link is on here if you guys want to join talking about some football next week. Again, I'm gonna give you my picks on who's gonna lead into the World Cup for who's going to be into the final for the World Cup in 2022. All the leagues are going to be done by next weekend, anyways. And before I leave, I'm going to give you guys some best bets of the weekend for some football. I did pretty good today. I'm not going to lie. I did even though I lost, I did a whole 14 team parlay and all of them hit. All my soccer ones hit except for Lazio. Lazio ended up losing to Feyenoord 1-0, which ruined my parlay. But don't worry about that. This weekend we have a pretty good one. Obviously, the Sunday matchup between Chelsea and Arsenal. I picked out my picks for that one. I said over 2.5 goals for between Chelsea and Arsenal, which is at 6 a.m. Guess who's going to be up? This guy right here. We're going to have the last La Liga games this weekend before they go into their World Cup break. And the only one that seems to have a little bit of a money play, right? And I really do like this play a lot, is Real Betis versus Sevilla. You're talking about two teams who are in opposites as their team goes on. Last year, these two were the most surprising two teams in La Liga. Real Betis obviously had that flying start. We're in the top four. Excuse me. We're in the top four throughout the whole entire year. They ended up dropping off at the very, very end. This year, same. They're in the top four. It's just the Sevilla team that's really, really been struggling and struggling a lot to the point where they're in the bottom of like I think in the relegation zone. I think they're third to the bottom. But they got Real Betis as a plus 115 at home on a Sunday at 2 p.m. I think that's a good one right there. It's a good pick. You parlay that one for a Sunday between the 2.5 goals over Arsenal and Chelsea. And let's go with Real Madrid facing Rayo Vallecano, a Madrid derby, by the way, if you guys didn't know them. Minus 180 right there. You pick them in for those. You got, I'm trying to get the Arsenal one for you guys. English Premier League. Let's go with the Arsenal Chelsea. Let's go with over and under over 2.5 goals. Your parlay is a plus 538. Put a $5 bet. You put $100 into that one if you're that. If you got that money, first of all, you get a plus $638. But if you're like me, that only puts $10, $63.84. If you would put the total goals over 2.5, Arsenal Chelsea, bet these on the money line against Sevilla, and Real Madrid on the money line for Sevilla. Let that be your best bets of the weekend. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for tuning in. I will be on next week once again. Same time, same place, 7 o'clock here on the Star 6 Media Facebook page, John Conavi Facebook page, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next week, breaking down the playoff group for the World Cup and much, much more. Oh, my man. I'll say that for next week. I have more content. I didn't think I was going to go over this long. I don't want to bore you guys. But next week, as we get close to the World Cup, I'm going to tell you guys next week on why this might be the worst World Cup in World Cup history. Tune in next week to hear that one. I will see you guys. Good luck this week gambling. Good luck to your teams, unless if you root for Manchester United and Chelsea for sure. Other than that, I'll see you guys next week. Y'all have a good weekend.
Scrooge smile with the quality of his goal.
See you later.
Oh. Yes. Yes.
He's intolerable.